Hi guys, our first lesson is going to be 2.1 integers and absolute value. So if we draw a number line, like so, the first number we always need to put on our number line is 0. And to the right, we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. Those are called our positive numbers. And on the left side, we would have -1, and then -2, and then -3. Those are called our negative numbers. All of these numbers are called integers. It's the set of positive and negative numbers, including 0. Keep in mind that 0 is neither positive nor negative because it represents essentially nothing. We can use integers to represent real-world situations. So if we have 23 degrees Fahrenheit below 0, the integer representing that situation would be -23 because it is below 0. Another example is if we have 11 inches more than normal, that would be a positive 11, or you can just write 11, because it is more than normal. A couple more examples would be a loss of 8 yards and a deposit of $15. I know we've got some football players and, of course, some spectators in the class, some cheerleaders. So if you're playing football and you have a loss of 8 yards, that would be a -8. And I don't know if any of you guys have checking accounts yet, but when you do, when you make a deposit, that is a positive number. So that is plus 15, or you can just write 15. We need to be able to compare integers. So if I draw a number line and I have always my 0 to start with, if I have a positive 1 and a -2, what would be two different inequalities that I could write? Now, inequalities use the symbols less than, greater than, or equal to. I will write the answers in red, but one option we could write is 1 is greater than -2, and also -2 is less than 1. Both of those are true. So let's look at another example. I want you to write two inequalities involving -7 and -3. If I draw a number line and put 0 first, -3 will fall on the left side of the 0, followed by -7. So now for my number line, I can tell that -7 is smaller than or less than -3, and the opposite side of that would be -3 is greater than -7. We talked a little bit about absolute value in 7th grade. If you're in 7th grade pre-algebra, you probably did not visit this as a 6th grader, but absolute value is a number's distance from 0, and it is always positive. You cannot have negative distances. So let's draw another number line. You guys are going to get sick of number lines. Sorry about that. Put our 0, and if we put +6 and -6 both on our number line, they are the same distance from 0. And the notation used for absolute value is you would have a 6 inside bars like this, which ask you to find the absolute value. So the absolute value of 6 is positive 6. It is 6 units away from 0. And the absolute value of negative 6 is also 6 units from 0. Distance is always positive, so it doesn't matter that we're moving in the negative direction. We're moving 6 spaces, which is a distance. So let's look at some examples. The absolute value of negative 4. If you draw a number line, plot your 0, and then go back 1, 2, 3, 4. The absolute value of negative 4 is positive 4. Distance is positive. Now we can find the absolute value of negative 3. Negative 3 would be right here, and it is 3 units from 0. The absolute value of negative, actually let's do a positive 1, which would be here, would equal positive 1. Absolute value is always positive. So now let's use absolute value to solve some problems. So if we have the absolute value of negative 4 minus the absolute value of 3, we treat these sort of like parentheses in that we need to find the absolute value before we find the operation. So the absolute value of negative 4 would be positive 4 minus the absolute value of 3, which is a positive 3. So my answer for this problem is 1. My last and final example says evaluate 6 plus the absolute value of x if x equals negative 2. So now we're building upon what we learned in the first chapter where you have to substitute and solve. So I will exchange my x for negative 2 and have 6 plus the absolute value of negative 2. 6 stays the same, plus the absolute value of negative 2 would be a positive 2, so my answer is now 8. I changed my mind. Let's do one more. So absolute value of y plus 8 if y equals negative 7. So I substitute negative 7 for y. The absolute value of negative 7 is a positive 7. My answer is now 15. I need you to show your work exactly as I have and move to your classwork assignment. So on page 64, I am going to have you do numbers 1 through 37. Go ahead and get started.